G'day, my name's Benjamin Law. I'm a journalist, author, columnist and TV screenwriter. Thanks a lot to the Thomas Keneally Centre Library for having me and for this opportunity to talk about me and my work. So I work in many modes. I write in probably two ways. One is that I write about myself and my own life, and that's probably most evident in my first book, The Family Law, which came out in 2010, which is a black comedy about my family. It's about growing up gay, Chinese Australian in the 1990s during the rise of Pauline Hanson as my parents' marriage fell apart. It's a classic Australian story. And I write about myself and my family and my friends in my columns for Good Weekend as well. The other mode in which I write is about other people, and that is probably best reflected in my journalism and essays when I've written about the lives of LGBTIQ people throughout Asia in my second book, Gaysia, Adventures in the Queer East, and in this year's quarterly essay, 2017, quarterly essay Moral Panic 101. I've also done some weird side projects with my family as well. So for instance, writing a joke comedy book with my sister Michelle called Shit Asian Mothers Say, very, very sophisticated text obviously. And in another book that I've just recently put out with my mother called Law School, which is a sex and relationships advice book from two generations and two cultures. I don't think many people would write sex and relationships advice with their mother, but there you go. And that came out in 2017 as well and had us speaking on places like The Project and all throughout the ABC. One thing that I'm often asked is why I became a writer. And the answer to that is probably because I was always such a voracious reader growing up. Libraries had a huge role in my life. Obviously, my parents would always buy me books, but libraries were such an important part, which is why it's such a pleasure to talk to and about Thomas Keneally Centre Library. And the other question I often get asked is, what's your advice for young and emerging writers as well? One of my first and fundamental bits of advice is to simply read. And I've been often surprised throughout the years how many people want to be writers and don't read very much. I think there's an idea of wanting to be a writer or what the writing lifestyle entails, not probably realizing that the writer lifestyle is often slouched over a desk, laboring over your work hour after hour. But I think reading is such a fundamental, nourishing act. To read, whether it's fiction or non-fiction about other human lives, is to work those muscles. It's a gymnasium of empathy. So read omnivorously is the first advice I'd give. And then the second, of course, is to write. Writing is also its own muscle. That probably seems like really obvious and straightforward advice, but the other bit of advice I'd often give people is to also exercise your body. Reading and writing, very sedentary acts. If you need to press restart, the best way to do that is to exercise your body, clear your mind of writing and of stories, and then see your work as new.